Welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for joining us today for another exciting hour. And this topic today, I'm really excited to talk about. It's been a minute, and it's actually our first time talking about insurance since we've been back here on Tampa Home Talk. And I want to welcome our new guest for the show, Mr. Dave Casselwitz. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You're with Most Insurance, right?
I am.
And so an exciting little thing for 2025 we're going to talk about today is insurance rates are actually dropping. That was such good news.
They are.
So I can't wait to hear all about that. So talk about that. Like, what are you seeing in general? Because I think the general consensus for myself and a lot of people was the last couple years we've gotten wrecked with storms. Last year was pretty rough. A lot of people are still putting their house back together. Some people are still not in their home after the storms. And we thought, oh my, no one's ever going to be able to afford homeowners insurance again.
Right.
So what are you seeing in general with the rates? What are you seeing drop?
Well, with auto insurance specifically, we're actually seeing a lot of the carriers taking rate decreases. Progressive, for an example, announced an 8% decrease starting July 1. So that's kind of nice.
Now, do they do homeowners, or they're just auto pretty much in boat and stuff like that?
For the most part, yes. They did just literally open up July 1 also, condo policies again here in Florida.
Oh, okay.
So but it's some pretty strict guidelines. You can't, in the past, we used to be able to bind it right away as long as we had all our documentation. Now they want a review before we can bind it. But right now it's only HO6 condo policies.
Are they the only one you're seeing so far with a little bit of a drop in premiums, or do you think that they're just like the beginning and some of the other carriers will start to follow?
No, most of them have already begun. Auto Owners is also talking about taking some rate down. They're going to be rolling out their new, or rather their old Southern Owners program, which is great for clients who have no issues with any kind of claims, great credit history, that kind of stuff. That gets them a huge discount to be in that program.
That's good. Are they new to Florida?
Auto Owners? No, they've actually been around.
Auto Owners been around, yeah.
They've been around like 125 years.
What was the other company that you mentioned?
Southern Owners.
What is that? Is that a subsidiary?
It's a division of Auto Owners, yeah.
Got it, okay. Yeah, it was interesting. One of the things on our agenda here and on our outline is talking about adding the teens, right, to the policy. I tell you what, Dave, I do not miss those days.
Nope.
I was telling Pat George that the minute my kids became 18, I made them get their own policy.
Yep.
And I think it's a smart thing to do for a parent, especially when you're somebody like me. My husband and I, we had the same insurance carrier for 25, 30 years. And, kids can drive a little bit reckless when they're young because
you're making
fun,
that up.
Yeah, and
Come
exciting,
on.
which is why they're higher.
Right.
And Pat will probably share another stat that he was talking about came into law earlier. We'll talk about that later. But so talk about that with the homeowner, with the teens driving. So why is it so high? How high are you seeing those go? Like, is it doubling? Is it different if you're adding a car compared to just adding them onto one of your cars that they're driving temporarily? And what can someone do to save a few bucks?
So there's a couple of different things. Having two kids that also went through that same situation, I totally get it. On average, you can expect to spend anywhere from about $175 to $250 extra a month per child is where it's going to run.
And that doesn't matter if you're adding another car or you're just adding them.
That's just
to
adding
drive
the
your
kid.
cars.
Yep.
Just okay.
So what the problem is that because the kids are going to be added onto the policy and they live in the house, even though you may have strict rules, hey, you're only going to drive this 02 Corolla, right?
Right.
But if you've got the BMW sitting in the driveway and the keys are laying in the bowl, guess what?
The insurance company thinks they've got access to all of them.
It's going to be possible. What happens?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Thank you very much.
So what if you have a Tesla? They can't just access it like that. They got to have an app.
But again, that's how the insurance company views it, okay? Because there is that potential for that risk as well.
All right, so let me ask you the loaded question, right? And it's interesting because some of these kids are not as anxious to drive nowadays as they used to be, which as a parent, that would be a dream. That did not happen in my house. I'll tell you that. Like my kids were mad at me if we weren't at the DMV the minute they turned 15.
Sure.
So what's the, I think when the kids start turning 15, you're like, oh, should I don't, maybe not. Let's just wait till they're 16. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And does the insurance company already know? Because I've heard about them sending the insured's letters. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And when do people typically add the kids?
So I'll give you my example. My kids both did not get their licenses till they were 21.
Oh, wow. Lucky you.
Okay. Well, I did a couple of things. They had their permits, and so they were able to drive. but they both went to local schools. It meant I had to do some chauffeuring. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But neither my son especially, he had zero desire to drive.
Many of the kids are
I know.
that way.
The kid was crazy. You would put him in the back seat. We start driving. He'd pass out and fall asleep every time.
Talk about the Uber generation.
Oh, I know. It really was. So for me, it actually worked out well.
Think about it. Like their generation compared to ours, there's no sense of urgency to drive because if they want McDonald's, they just Uber Eats. If they want to go somewhere, they just push a button and a car magically comes, picks them up and takes them where they want to go.
Well, and when I was that age, if I wanted to hang out with my friends, there was no cell phone. There was nothing. It was you had to get in your car and drive to their house or meet them at the mall or do whatever it was. So that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, the social connections, everything has just come to the phone.
Correct.
It's interesting. So both of your kids were 21.
Yep, both of them were 21 when they finally got their licenses. And because they also went to a school that had a shuttle service. So it was like, what do you need a car for? And again, my son had no desire. He was like, I'm good. My daughter was the one that really wanted to get her license and really wanted to drive.
And did you tell her she had to wait till she was 21 or?
No, she had to kind of sell me on it. I love her to death, and she's actually a really good driver now. She actually works for the post office.
Okay.
So that's kind of a nice thing for her. And so she's a much safer driver than when she started. Aren't
they all? Right? Yes.
There was a lot of grabbing the oh crap bar with her. And, but as time goes on, things get better, and she improved. And so I'm super happy. She's a great driver now, very safe. And she's doing really well with it.
So did they have their permit that whole time
for
like 4 or 5 years?
Yep,
wow.
They sure did.
So how was that for insurance?
The nice thing is most carriers don't actually rate them if they have their permit.
Oh, okay.
So it's not going to make your price go up at all or much at all.
So did your premium change when they had their permit?
When they had their permit, no, mine bumped up just a little bit, not much, but it wasn't that bad, just because I had another listed driver. Hence the other reason why I said, let's keep them on their own.
Yeah.
The other thing I did, unfortunately, credit has such a big bearing on car insurance these days. And a lot of these kids just have no credit score. And so when they start to drive, they're rated based on that low-end credit score. And that has a huge bearing. So the first thing I did was I added them to a couple of my credit cards. They didn't get a card, but they got the benefits of my credit history.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I mean, the kids are popping an 800 credit score.
Mine actually has a score higher than mine. I've got an 820. He's got 850. I'm
Isn't
like,
that something?
How did you do that?
Because they don't do anything.
That's exactly right. So we did that. That definitely helped. The other thing that we made
that's a good, real quick while we're on
Sure.
that, Dave, that is such a good tip for like home buying too.
Oh, everything.
A lot of times we'll have someone that's like right on the cusp. And speaking of which, we're recording this show as of July 1st. It'll probably cut and air a little later. But there's a lot of down payment assistance that's hitting the market today. So Sarah at the mortgage firm can hook you up on that. I will tell you that a lot of times adding someone, like we'll see kids all the time, young kids try to buy, and the parents just adding them on the credit card makes all the difference in the world. And essentially they start popping the score that's high enough for them to qualify.
Correct. It makes a big, big difference.
So carry on. I just thought I would add that little tidbit.
No, that's a great point. The other thing that actually helps a lot is making sure that they've got higher coverages. Too many times, here in Florida especially, if you call up and go, hey, I just want what the state requires, you get the worst insurance, no coverage. Here in the state of Florida, we're only required to have a personal injury protection policy of $10,000 and property damage of $10,000. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Because the problem is that insurance isn't really based on you as a person, but you as a group. And people that typically have that kind of policy have more accidents, don't pay their bills on time, have more issues, and so they get charged a higher rate. So when you've got the higher coverages, and this, because especially when the child is trying to get their own insurance, whatever insurance they bring with them, that's what they're getting rated on.
Oh,
so if they have a no BI policy, they're getting rated on that previous insurance of no bodily injury.
Okay, so no BI, no bodily injury.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so that makes sense. So you definitely want to add them on your policy with better coverages before they go get their own.
Correct. The next question I always get at this point is, well, I don't want to be responsible for my kids, so I'm going to get them their own policy.
Yeah, I don't think it works like that, does it?
And it does not. No, sadly, it doesn't. So let's face it. If you're supporting them, if they're living in your house, they're going to college, whatever it is, you're responsible. And no matter what, you're going to have that happen. So that's why, like when my kids went off to school, even though they had their permits, I still made sure that we had an umbrella policy. We had the necessary protection, so that way I wasn't getting sued.
So even if they're over 18, it doesn't matter. They have their own policy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So what are some other things someone can do just to help get slightly better rates? Like if they're looking at the teens, that's a lot of money right now in this high inflation environment. For a lot of families, a couple $100 is a big deal. And then if they're trying to add another vehicle on their policy on top of that, that's a lot of money.
Correct. Well, the other thing you want to do, especially if you're thinking about getting your kids a car, don't go out and buy them a new Tesla. All right. A Hoopty works great. My daughter, I'll give you a good example. She had an 07 Honda Accord, had 300,000 miles on it, ran like a champ, okay? And it cost me, when we put her on that car and in her own policy at 21, she was paying $150 a month. Not bad.
But she was
Katrina,
21.
Katrina, what kind of car does your daughter drive?
That's not fair, Pat. Okay, so I'll tell the backstory since Pat already opened Pandora's box here. So my younger daughter, super competitive, right? Has older siblings. And with all of our children, we told them, okay, we're going to do a match for whatever car you want to buy within reason. We'll match you on whatever car you want to buy. So the older ones are like, oh, I want a Mustang. I want this. We're like that. We're like, absolutely not. It's not going to happen. We're not buying a Mustang. Because any car, we put the little OEM readers in there, you know, so we could tell what was, because back then, you know, it was just different.
Yep.
So my daughter, the oldest one that's 25 now, she would constantly pull it out. And I would be like, oh, no. So we took it to a mechanic and had it installed under the dash.
Okay.
So she wasn't able to pull it out, and we could still, you know, read all the stats to figure out what was going on. That was our way to try to control the situation.
Sure.
So fast forward, her younger sister, that's 6 years younger than her, I bought my Tesla like 5 years ago. In 2020, I bought it.
Okay.
And she had decided at that time, she was 14. She was hell-bent on buying a Tesla.
Okay.
At the time, the Model 3s were like $25,000. I think they're back down to that now. So she decides in her mind she's buying a Tesla, and I thought, oh no. And then the more I sat with it, I started talking to my husband, and I said, you know what? It's probably not a bad idea, because we can see everything on the app. We can lock her out. We don't have to fight about the keys. We can see everything. There's nothing to pull out because we have full control of the car.
Right.
So we decided, all right, bet. We're like, if she can save that kind of money for a match, we'll do it. And then we said, well, let's put a cap on it, because knowing her, she's competitive. So we're like, all right, $10,000 cap. That's it. If you want it, you got to save the difference. So it's another $25,000. And do you know, this girl saved it. She saved every freaking bit of it. And we're like, it's hard to say no when I'm telling you, you're not financing a car. You got to pay cash.
I get it.
And you worked for 2 years straight doing everything you could to make money. It was just hard to say no, you know?
We did the same thing. Our cap was only $5,000 though. Because, you know,
I didn't have to put a cap on the older ones. I could see where she was going.
I know. Yeah, I put a 5K cap on mine because right away my son was like, well, I want a Dodge Charger. And I'm like, no. That's not happening. So,
that's where the other kids were too. But I didn't have to put a cap on them because they did good to save $5,000, not the little one.
Yeah. No, both of them. Well, and my daughter especially, she was a hustler. I mean, she always has been. So for her, I knew that's how it was going to go. But when she had the opportunity to get a car, it was, no, I'm going to be frugal. I'm going to save my money. And yeah. So.
Oh, I could see the writing on the wall with the little one. And I was like, all right, let's just get a cap on this one right now.
Can we talk about that OEM? Is that little thing that you put on the car that gauges how you drive, how you stop, and so on and so forth? Is that on all the vehicles now? And does it really save you?
Not really. You're thinking about the thing you plug in for insurance. This was
different.
Right.
Okay.
This is a little different app you can do.
It plugs into like the dash thing. A lot of mechanics use it. They plug other things into it to tell a whole bunch of diagnostics with the car. But you can tell a lot of stuff. Like it'll give you alerts on like hard braking, rapid acceleration.
I'm talking about the one the insurance companies want you to put on.
It does the same kind of stuff.
They didn't have that.
Yeah.
When Madeline was driving, they didn't have that.
But they have that now. And is that really helpful? And does it save you money?
He's like, maybe not enough to be worth the risk. That was my thought at the time.
Because I have friends that have it and they go, oh, I got to be careful.
Yeah. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Okay. One of my son's best friends, I'm his agent still, and he was insistent on having it. And I'm like, you are not a good driver. I know you're not a good driver. All right, this is not a good plan for you. And so sure enough, what did he do? He ordered it anyways, plugged it in. So I of course, I've got the alert that he's done it. And so the next time I see him, I'm like, so how's that going? And he goes,
Wait, do you see any of the data?
Not as much as you do on your device, but I can see some of the data.
Okay.
And it's depending on the carrier. So he was with Progressive at the time, and it scores you.
Okay.
And he says, yeah, it beeps all the time.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, beeping is bad. Okay. And he's like, well, I don't know what the problem is. So I pull it up. Yeah, it was an A through E. He was a D.
Oh,
okay,
boy.
on the score. And I'm like, dude, you gotta stop this. And he goes, Flo is so judgy. I don't know what the problem is here. And so sure enough, his renewal came back. This is why I'm not a big fan of these things.
He went up.
$350 every 6 months.
They're like, thanks for getting the device.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's the challenge with those.
I mean, unless you drive like an Uber grandma or like Pat George, I probably wouldn't get it.
Yeah. So I personally don't like them.
So as an insurance agent, you're saying don't get that. I would think that
He's
you would say,
not the underwriter, Pat.
I'm
He's
not
the agent.
I'm not the underwriter.
Okay.
There are some people that it's really a good fit for. There really are. If
like
you're,
Pat George.
Yeah,
It would probably save you
so.
money on your
I
car
would-
insurance.
They would give me money.
Yeah. Well, and on some of the carriers, that's exact. If you got to find out, does this carrier rate negatively on it, or
How do you know that? Do you know that?
yeah, I know
Okay.
that. Okay.
Okay.
But what you also want to find out is what's the penalty if they do. Do they do a full rate review, or do they just simply remove the initial 10% discount?
Okay, that's fair. So, Pat, you were saying something this morning about a law that passed recently.
Being July 1st, there's like 220 different laws, and they're just from anything from to everything.
On the
the big
topic
one,
we're talking about right now.
Now, if you drive 100 miles an hour and you're clocked and pulled over, you go to jail. $500 fine. You should know this. I'm sure you do.
Actually, it wasn't until you mentioned it to me. Like you said, 220. I don't know them all.
And the big one is that people drive on the interstate of I-4, 70 miles an hour is the speed limit, 65, 70, depending on where you're at. Mm-hmm. It is so easy for some of those people to go another 30 miles an hour. So,
Oh, yeah.
let
me tell you something.
On your ride in this morning, you said you saw
7 highway patrol.
You can hit 100 in a Tesla and not feel it.
Yeah.
Not feel it. I have Chris's mom, that's 82,
okay.
driving the Tesla. She hit 103, and I happened to look up, and I was like, "You're going to get a ticket. You better slow down."
We're going to have all these Teslas in the impound lot because
I'm
it was
just
so
saying,
easy.
it's so smooth. Like you
Yeah.
don't even
They
Tesla
are a
makes
smooth
you
ride. Yep.
when you take a demo. Like if you go test drive a Tesla and you take it off the lot, they make you sign something saying that they're not responsible if you get a ticket, if you get a speeding ticket.
Second offense, $1,000 fine and up to 180 days in jail. And then the third, you lose your license for a period of time.
I mean, it's smart. 100 is fast. It's deadly. If you're in an
100 is normal
accident.
for some people on I-4.
Yeah, I know. It's I-4. It's the problem.
Or 75 or US 19.
And that's why I use my cruise control every time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it makes sense for sure. So, all right, let's talk about flood insurance. That's the big one. Tampa was hit so hard last year, harder
Okay.
than I probably ever remember the whole time I've lived
Correct.
here and I'm a native. So, what's the big deal with flood insurance? A lot of the FEMA's remapping some of the zones, so
They
we're
already
seeing
did.
that.
Yep.
And then also a lot of times people say, "Well, I'm not in a flood zone. Why do I need flood insurance?" So let's talk about all that magic stuff related to flood
okay.
in 2025 that
Correct.
you need to know.
Correct. When I work with a lot of real estate agents, and a lot of them make the mistake, and it could potentially be an E&O claim of saying you're not in a flood zone. Okay, I have bad news, and this may come as a shock, but everywhere is in a flood zone.
Yeah, we don't tell anybody you're not.
Yeah.
We
But-
tell them, here's the zone, talk to your insurance
Yep,
agent.
exactly. And that's the challenge, though, is that that's the first question I hear. Well, I know I'm not in a flood zone. Well, no, you are. So you may be in a preferred zone, which is called an X zone, but you still have the potential to flood. And that's what we saw happening here last year. Okay. Now, the FEMA did redraw the maps a couple of years back, and they redefined what they call an X zone. So now if you're in the center of the state, your rates are actually less expensive if you're on compared to somebody on the outer edges of the state who's still in a preferred zone. Okay. So we recommend it. especially now that the rates have decreased for flood insurance because of that redrawing. If you're in an X or a preferred zone, absolutely 110%. It's cheap. Okay.
Now, Dave, did I see something where if you have to have citizens, do they automatically require you to get flood insurance? Is that accurate?
Starting in 2026, all policies with citizens are going to require it. Anything right now that's written, I believe it's either 500 or 600,000, also is requiring to have it.
So are they insuring the flood, or is that through FEMA, or what's the situation with that?
It has to be through a separate company. So either it's through an NFIP provider, FEMA, or you can do private market. The challenge of the private market is that you have to do the full value of the home and the full value of the contents. With an NFIP flood, the maximum value that they can insure it for is $250,000 for the building, $100,000 for the contents.
So how does that work if it's a $500,000 property? Are they allowing that? Is it okay if they have flood insurance for $250,000?
Correct. That's
okay.
Because that's all the NFIP will offer is that amount. Now you can get an excess policy, but Citizens is not requiring it.
So I thought I saw somewhere, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit more, if FEMA has paid out a claim twice, they don't insure the home anymore, or there's a maximum that FEMA pays out. Are you aware of any of that?
I am, and I have some of the details, but not enough of the details, because a lot of that started rolling out at the end of last month. So the biggest thing that we're seeing the challenges with right now is because there is no loss of use, or not loss of use rather, but ordinance and law built into a FEMA policy. When they've hit that 50% damage rule, so now the rule is if there's more than 50% damage, the house has to be brought up to FEMA code, which means many homes have to be raised. There's no money built into the policy to do that with.
All right, so let's talk about that for a minute. The law and ordinance says basically if you have a claim, you have to be brought up to current standards in terms of codes, right?
Correct.
So you're saying
and like on a regular home insurance
on the homeowner's policy. That's
Correct.
what I was going to ask.
Yep, on the regular home insurance policy, it's going to bring it up to building code. So let's say it says, hey, the new code is you have to, we'll just say you can't have aluminum wiring. We all know you can't have aluminum wiring.
You have to have GFCIs in all the wet areas.
Correct. All right. So that would give you money to do those very things with. However, when the FEMA policy, there is no ordinance and law.
So why wouldn't homeowners pick up on something like that if it's the law? I mean, I know
Two separate things.
I know.
They don't play nice.
Yeah. So did you see a lot of your clients or your people get subject to that FEMA 50 rule?
Fortunately, not as many as I thought we were going to be.
Okay.
I've got a couple right now. Now, FEMA has rolled out some new programs that they're trying to qualify for, and seeing if they can get that funding and that grants and those low interest loans and things like that to be able to do that with. But I've only had a handful, so I was very fortunate in that regard.
Now, did insurance do loss of use at all?
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
For just homeowners, or what about flood?
There's no loss of use on that.
So even though it's loss of use because of a flood, your homeowners are still paying it?
It depends on what the damage was. So here again, it goes back to insurance definitions. What was the cause of the risk or cause of the peril to happen? Was it a result of flooding or was it a result of wind? So if it's wind, then it's going to fall to the home insurance. If it was flooding, then it's going to fall to FEMA.
And I know there'll still be some things going back and forth where they don't know, or there was a house fire and they're both going like this, pointing to each other.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's such a mess for homeowners that are living in their house. It's such a thing. And yeah, I know people that started early with contractors waiting for insurance money, and they're just getting back in their house.
Yeah.
From last year. I
know.
mean, it was something. And so we're officially in hurricane season right now.
Yes, we are.
So, and it's been quiet so far, like knock on wood, but it's still early.
There you go.
In the season.
There you go. You're messing it up.
It's early. I know. I'm not trying to. All right. So the insurance rate has increased. Haven't had any claims. What does that mean? Do you think everyone's homeowners is going up a little bit?
We've actually, personally, what I've noticed is it's not going up as much. Now, there are various carriers that have taken on, if they had larger claims, they are taking on some rate, okay? But a lot of them have been pretty steady Eddie. I've seen most of my carriers about $100 difference is all. Not bad.
So no major increases. I thought we were going to get pummeled this year.
That's because most of the claims were flood, not home. I
mean, we had a lot of wind too, so I'm surprised.
We did. And on the coastal properties, We definitely saw some of that, but a lot of those, and that's been the nice thing too, is that we're taking on, I know for us, we try and take on good risks, just like the underwriters do. A lot of these carriers have really stepped up their underwriting, and they're getting a lot pickier about what they're willing to take and what they're not willing to take. And so they're pushing back.
What are some things you see in underwriting?
About they're causing problems?
Well, yeah, you say they're getting a little bit stricter. So what's an example of
Old
something?
condominiums.
Well, that's a whole different show.
That's a different animal, that's for sure. So the biggest thing, so a couple of things. Citizens just re-updated their form for 4 points, for example. And so in the past, cloth wiring was no, you couldn't have it at all. Well, there is a form of cloth wiring that's actually wrapped in a rubber coating. It looks just like Nomex. Then they put paper or put cloth around it. That's acceptable, but you have to differentiate that now. Okay, so you've got to show that. I'm dealing with one right now. It has copper pipes, and one of the joints where they're connected into the sink area is slightly corroded, and the carrier is pushing back, going, "We want to see that replaced."
They're having a conniption about it.
They want it replaced. Which
all the plumbing or just that little area?
They want that one area fixed.
Okay,
and but still, it's easily $200-300 to repipe, especially for copper.
Yes.
To get that sort of stuff done.
Now, citizens, aren't they requiring 5 years left on the roof? Now they bumped that, right?
Minimum of 5 years.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yep.
I think. I mean, to rip off a roof that's got 5 years left, that's a lot.
And they will start the clock.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. It's like if it shows 5 years or less, or 5 years or more on there, then they'll start the clock. And when you get closer to that time, they're going to be, okay, you got to get a new roof.
I thought some of the legislation that passed in recent years was they were doing a depreciation value on the roof so that you could keep it longer. But, that's your risk. They're not going to pay out a roof claim.
Right. A lot of carriers are offering that as actually an endorsement. Okay. They're also offering it at the actual cash value or paying out a percentage.
The actual cash value of the roof?
Of the roof.
Based on the age.
Based on the age.
So they're going to depreciate it based on, so if it's got 5 years left and it was a $10,000 roof, they're going to give you maybe $5,000.
Well, the value of whatever 5 years is left on a roof is what they're going to pay you out.
Got it.
Not an actuary, but they'll calculate that number.
I mean, I think that's smart, right? Because there's no sense in ripping off a roof. I mean, I think about our home we lived in for 20 years. And granted, we didn't do that. We had to save the money to replace the roof. A lot of people were using insurance money as maintenance costs, which is what kind of got us in that boat. And we see that when inflation gets tight, right?
Yep.
We saw that back in 2006 when things were tight. They were doing it with sinkholes at the time. And, the recent years has been roofs. And now basically there's legislation that changes that. So I think it's good because it doesn't make sense to make somebody rip off the roof on their house, and if they've got a mortgage, they have to have insurance. They might need that 5 years to save for a roof.
Correct.
And so they can patch it. There's a lot of things they can do in the interim until they get it replaced. But I mean, I can tell you, I remember our house. It was literally, we had repaired it so many times. It was literally leaking in the dining room through the light, and I was like, okay, we're going to be getting that replaced soon. But we had to patch it quite a bit, and it was during the time we were saving for a roof.
Okay, I just jumped in on this podcast. Who am I listening to?
This is Dave Casselwitz with Most Insurance.
And who are you?
I'm Katrina Madewell. I'm your host.
And if I want to hear this podcast, I can hear it where? Spotify?
You search for Tampa Home Talk. It's anywhere you listen to
Alexa,
podcasts. Yeah, so you can go to tampahometalk.com under radio. They post on there. And they are everywhere.
How do you like that little plug in there?
Yeah, it's nice. Nice. Just a little reminder for the person listening. And,
exactly.
If you missed it, the whole show goes in its entirety on a podcast. So you can get it anywhere you listen to your podcast.
Nice.
All right. So should I file a claim for insurance? That's a big one. That's a big one. I personally like the higher deductibles because in my mind, I am never going to file a claim unless my house burnt down. I just don't think you should. It's going to significantly impact your rates. And most of the time, by the time you factor in deductibles, just fix whatever's broken.
Right. Well, and I think that's what got a lot of people in trouble. In times past, you could get a $500 deductible for hurricane and all other perils. And so, sadly, what a lot of people did was they started using it as a maintenance program, just like you said. Okay? Yep. So the challenge is that, and people don't realize this, anytime you call the carrier and say, am I covered for A, B, or C, that counts as a claim against you. I've had a client.
Wait, just to ask questions about your policy?
Questions.
Wow.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Well, but that's the rules.
So,
okay?
but you can call your agent, right?
That's
Somebody
what I
like
tell all my
you,
clients.
and
Call me. Let's talk it through. I'll give you a good example. I've had a client, good friend of mine, been a client for 7-8 years. During the last storms, part of his fence blowed down, and he's like, "I knew you were slammed. I didn't want to bother you." Now he's called me every time, but I don't know why he didn't do it this time. But he chose not to. Said he calls the carrier. The carrier says, "Yep, you're covered, but you've got a $6,000 deductible because it was a hurricane. How much damage is done? $350. Sorry, have a nice day. We're not going to pay."
And now they hit him as a claim.
It hits him as a claim.
So you're telling me if I call Slide, I don't know if you've heard of them. That's who I have.
Yeah, I've written them. Yep.
Okay. I call them instead of calling you, and I say, "Look, I know the storms are coming. Is my patio covered?" Just by talking to them?
Well, no, that's a different conversation. So
Okay.
it's pre-storm, all right?
Okay.
All right, we're talking post. So, hey, this damage has happened.
Oh, well, that's a whole, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's
so
different.
this damage has happened. Am I covered for A, B, or C?
Just asking and say, but I'm not going to claim anything.
I
Yep.
wouldn't even ask him. I would just call your agent.
Call the agent. That's the best way to do it. Because we can tell you, and we're never going to discourage you from filing a claim, all right? But at the same time, we're going to go, does this make sense?
It's kind of like checking for a sinkhole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't get me started.
Don't get me started. There are probably a lot of people that do that. They will call their insurance company and just ask that post question.
Oh, yeah.
And
Don't
that
do
is
it.
a claim?
I had a husband. He called that morning. The wife called that afternoon.
Oh, no.
They counted it as 2 claims.
What? That is so ridiculous.
They probably don't have that insurance company
They
anymore.
did not. We switched them pretty quickly. So
Oh, my gosh. Dave's like, let's not even wait for your policy to renew. Let's just go ahead
The
and do it
things
right
you
now.
learn on this show.
yeah.
I've
And
learned so
people
much.
just don't realize that, and that's why it's also important to have a relationship with your agent. Sadly, most people, I get it. Insurance isn't sexy. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, it's something you need to talk about. And if you're not having those conversations with your agent, at least on an annual basis, the thing that I always find hilarious is people will do all these updates to their home. Okay, they'll put in new kitchens and new floors and new this and new that, and they never call the carrier, never call the insurance agent and go, "Hey, by the way, I did all these upgrades." Well, now something's happened, and it's like, well, we didn't know about that. Guess what? Your house we don't value your house at that.
So they don't have significant coverage. Plus, the values in the last 5 years have changed so much.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
if you bought 2019 or before, your house is probably worth double what
Pretty
it
close,
is
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And so you probably don't have enough coverage.
No. Well, and your agent should be doing what's called a replacement cost estimator, whether you're shopping for a new policy or you have an existing policy. So every carrier has them, and you plug in the details of the home. So when somebody calls me up and goes, "Hey, I want to talk about my home," that's the first question I have. Well, tell me about your flooring. Tell me about your countertops. Do you have crown molding? What do you have? Well, as I'm doing that, I'm plugging all those details in because the carrier knows, based on previous claims, what the cost of those items are. And that's how they determine the valuation of the house itself. Because you get that question. Well, I paid this much. Okay, that's great. But to replace it, it's going to be this much.
It's good for your taxes.
Correct.
We'll help you on your homeowner's insurance.
But I've seen it go the reverse too, where somebody's paying way more and the value of the home is way less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've seen that in recent years. People
Yep.
were buying in competitive interest rates environments, bidding up, and now the
Correct.
property values are settling a little bit.
Right. So it can go both ways.
Which is a really good tip for your taxes, by the way. So when you get that trim notice in August, the blue one that says this is not a bill, look at that closely if you've purchased in the last couple of years, because it's going to be really, really important to make sure that you're being assessed properly. Because if you're not, you got a very small window to dispute that.
Correct.
So kind of a big deal, not really related to insurance, but it's
Important
related to
Yep.
this crazy environment we live in where people are trying to save money because everything is expensive,
Yep.
which probably leads us to one of our final points is, people are looking for a lot of ways to save money. Have you seen a lot of people ask for lower coverages, trying to save every little bit of cash they can?
Sadly, we have. Okay. One of the nice things, I'm an independent agent, so that means I'm loyal to the client. I have no loyalty to any one carrier. So what we do is we literally will shop you. So if the rate's too high, before I say, hey, let's cut the coverages, I'm going to run a comparison. In fact, at most, we're required once a year to review the policy, give you not only your renewal, but the next 2 best options as well, which makes it nice, okay?
Yeah.
Because now we're doing our work and we're showing you what you've got.
How far in advance should you do those annual reviews? Because I know it feels like it kind of sneaks up. At least it does for me on those policies. Are you trying to do that 30 days ahead of time? Do you typically call the client? Did they call you?
It can go either way. So the renewal legally isn't required to be there until at least 30 days out. So I try and set something up to where I'm being proactive, if at all possible, and going, hey, here's what the best rates are so far. Let's see what the renewal looks like, and we go from there, okay? That's the easiest way to handle it. Sometimes we're down to the wire, and things get busy, even for me, and I can't get to them as fast as I'd like to. So sadly, the squeaky wheel does get the grease,
right?
Right. But 9 times out of 10, if nothing else, what I do is I go back and go, okay, so you got your renewal. That doesn't look like that's the best rate after all. Let's go ahead and move you, because they're going to get a full refund of any unused premium.
Now, Dave, how many carriers are you all writing through?
Currently, we're writing through 10 auto and 16 home.
Okay, that's a lot. That's more than I thought there was available. What about flood?
I've got 3 floods that I can write through. 2 private market and then 2 NFIPs.
Okay. And so for the person listening, if your insurance is coming up and you want to reevaluate these, some of them have dropped. If you want to find ways that you could potentially save some money, it's a good time to call or reach out. We'll definitely get you connected to Dave Casselwitz with Most Insurance. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text that number 24/7, and we will get back to you and get you connected. 813-377-2775. Final thought, do you insure boats and umbrellas and all those extra little things?
We do. Yeah, we write personal lines, commercial lines. My saying is, if you live in it, drive in it, work in it, or play with it, I can probably insure it.
All right. That's fair enough. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, joined by Dave Casselwitz with Most Insurance. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Hope
Glad to be
you
here.
had fun today. We look
did.
forward to having you back again, and we'll look for some of those law changes and bring you guys that information on a later show. This is Tampa Home Talk. Love where you live, or we're going to fix it. Welcome home.